All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started now. Yeah, I think a few people are still having trouble joining, but hopefully, I'm just going to say if you can head to the Encode Discord. Okay, I just told people just to head to the Encode Discord if they have any remaining issues. That way, Rebecca, you can help them get in.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. I'll
perfect.
go backstage and I'll be. Oh, we're getting a lot of people. Oh, yes, incognito seems to be working.
Okay.
So I'll keep tech supporting in the background. I'll go on stage now and hand over to you,
Okay.
Ryan.
Okay.
You made
Perfect.
it anyway, so well done.
All right. Thanks, Rebecca, for helping out here. Yeah, so welcome, everybody. I know we were having some trouble joining the meeting, but it seems that we figured out a solution now. So welcome. This is the PIP 101 Intro to Programmable IP workshop. Basically, this is the first technical workshop of the Real World Assets Buildathon. I plan on doing a lot of these, so don't worry if things are confusing today or if they don't make sense. Again, we're going to be doing quite a few of these throughout the Buildathon. And of course, if you have any technical questions throughout the entire Buildathon, you can always let me know in Discord. I'll be happy to get on a voice chat with you, work through it with you one-on-one. So don't worry if things don't make complete sense today. But so we're going to start out with just like intro to blockchain concepts, really just how to get a wallet going. So this is for those of you that don't really have never coded in the Web3 space before. So without going too much into the weeds, the wallet that I'm going to be using today is MetaMask. Basically, if you're not familiar with blockchain programming, a wallet is sort of like your identity. It's what lets you interact with the blockchain. It's what lets you interact with Story and perform actions on Story. So if you don't have a wallet, you're going to need one, again, just to sort of run test transactions. Now, the good news is that everything we're going to be doing today is a test. So it doesn't require real money. It doesn't require anything like that. But again, you will need a wallet to sort of interact with our protocol. So I'm using MetaMask. You can get your own MetaMask wallet if you go to metamask.io/download and then click on this Chrome button here, or whatever browser you're using, obviously. But I'm using Chrome, so I would click Chrome, and then you would go through the whole setup process. And so the setup process is really just going to have you like put in a dummy password. Because it's a test wallet, you can put in whatever dummy password you want, and then it'll set up a wallet. And eventually, it's going to look something like this. Now you'll see here, it looks like I have $4,000. I wish I did. This is all test, remember. So this is my dummy account. I have a bunch of IP tokens in here, and this is all on our testnet. Now, a testnet is basically like a fake simulation for the mainnet. Now, the mainnet is like the real protocol. That's where all the actual IPs live. That's where all actual money is. It's all the real stuff, right? But the testnet is basically the exact same blockchain or the exact same protocol, except just a test version. And so our testnet is called Anade. So this is Story Anade testnet. And you can see I have a bunch of test IP tokens here. And I'm going to walk you through how to get your own test IP tokens in one moment here so that you can actually interact with Story. So Ryan, if you go to your computer and you actually go into incognito mode, you'll actually be able to log in on your computer as well. So for those of you, if any of you are on your phone right now, you can go into incognito mode on your computer and the meeting should work. So just go ahead and make a MetaMask wallet. You can follow along live with me if you want to. You don't have to, but go ahead and make a MetaMask wallet, input some dummy stuff, and then go ahead and you should see a page like this on your as an extension. And then I'm going to show you how to get some test IP tokens now. So if you head to our documentation at docs.story.foundation, you can scroll down on the left here, click on network information, and then click on Anade testnet. Now, once you do that, you can scroll down to where you see faucet and click Google Cloud Faucet. Now, I'm actually going to paste this link in the chat over here in case any of you are following along live. You're going to go to this testnet. Now, once you do that, you're going to go to your MetaMask or whatever wallet you're using. You don't have to use MetaMask. Click copy on your address up here. This is like your identity or your name. and then you're going to input that as a wallet right here. Now, once you do that, you can click receive 10 enaid testnet IP. And once you do that, Google will send you test IP token. And again, that's what's used to interact with our protocol. If this for some reason doesn't work for you, or you want more, right? You're using an application, you want more test IP, please let me know, and I'll be happy to send a bunch to you. I do have quite a bit, so I'm always happy to send extra IP to you if you need it. So far, just let me know in the chat. Does anyone have any questions about this, about what a wallet is? And if you're still confused, I'll help you. So no, we're not on ETH mainnet. We are on Story enaid testnet. So if you already have a MetaMask wallet, you can actually set that up by going to, if you go to Welcome to Story Network right here, you can click on Add Story enaid testnet, and I'll also paste this link in the chat here, right? If you go to this link, then you can click on Connect, and it'll actually prompt you to add that to your MetaMask. That way, if you go to this right here, and you go to the left-hand side, you should see that Story enaid testnet is added as a network here, okay? So we're on Stories testnet. So for those of you that are in the chat, is this making sense so far? Just how to set up a wallet and get the network added to your wallet? Perfect. Okay, good. Awesome. All right. I'm glad everyone's following along so far. Perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to dive into just interacting with Story, and you'll see why we needed a wallet in order to do this. So let's go ahead and do that. So to prepare for this workshop, I've actually gone ahead and made a TypeScript tutorial. So for this workshop, we're going to be using our TypeScript SDK to interact with Story. Now, the reason we're doing that is because I believe most people are probably going to use TypeScript. We also do have a Python SDK. So if you're really familiar with Python or you're more comfortable with it, go ahead and use that instead. But again, for this workshop, we'll be using TypeScript. And also, if we have time at the end, I'll cover how to interact with Story using Solidity directly. So how to use the smart contracts. But again, we'll be using TypeScript for this tutorial. So I'm going to go ahead and send the link to this in the chat as well. And this has complete code examples for interacting with Story. So you actually, if you go ahead and clone this repo, let's do that together right now. I'm going to go into my terminal. I actually use Warp. This is just kind of a side note. For those of you that are really into like the whole AI craze, you like Cursor, you like Windsurf, Warp is actually a really cool AI version of the terminal. So you can see here, like it's prompting me to like run certain commands. So anyways, I just think that's kind of cool. So yeah, all right, so let's go ahead and I'm going to make a new directory. Actually, I'm going to go back to my Story directory. I'm going to make a directory called test story. And I'm going to go into test story, and then I'm going to clone the TypeScript tutorial here. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh, I think I have to copy it from here. So I'm going to go ahead and say git clone, boom, and now I've cloned into it. So now we're going to go into that directory, TypeScript tutorial, and I'm going to clear just so that we can get rid of some of the noise here. And once we're in here, I'm going to type npm i, and that's just going to install all the dependencies for us, make sure that everything is configured correctly, and from there we can open up the code and keep going. So I'm going to open this up, cursor dot, and now I'm going to make this full screen here so that all of you can see it. Now we actually are set up with a bunch of code examples we can use, so you don't even have to start from scratch. So for example, if we go into the registration folder, you can see there's a register file, and this actually contains all of the code you need to register an IP asset, right? And what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through some of these scripts so that you can actually understand how to, what this is, how to get it to work, all that fun stuff. So I'm going to do another little progress check just to make sure everyone in the chat, does this make sense so far? We're set up with like a total, like a bunch of code examples here, and we're going to run through this. We're going to run through this now. And I'm going to show you how to set this up using your own wallet and that too. So I'm just going to pause for one brief moment. That way people have the ability to, get set up on their computer. And I also will mention that I am assuming you have at least coded before. The reason I'm saying that is because I'm assuming you have Git installed on your computer. If you don't have Git installed, you will have to install that. But again, I'm assuming that people have coded before. Okay. Awesome. Don't worry, I'm going to walk through what these are in just a moment. Okay, cool. So now that we've got this set up, let's actually go ahead into our .env.example, and we're going to need to configure a couple things right now. So let's go ahead and copy this, and I'm going to paste it here, and then I'm going to rename this file to .env. Okay, and we're going to get rid of the .example here. Now this is going to be like our actual configurables. So we're going to need to set a couple things here, and really just these two in order to get it to work. So we're going to have to configure our wallet private key. Now, before we do that, let's actually go ahead and cover the Pinata JSON Web Token. So go to your browser and look up pinata.cloud. And when you do that, you're going to log in. And you're going to log into your, I guess, basically like your Google account. You can log into whatever. And then you're going to go to API keys. All right. And once you go to API keys, you're going to click on new key. And you're going to type test key. And just click admin just so that we don't have to worry about any permissions right now. And create it. And then once you get to the screen, click on, we're under the JSON Web Token, click on copy, right? And then go back to your project and paste that into your .env, okay? So paste that right into here. Then for the wallet private key, I'm actually going to do this off screen because even though it is a test wallet, I still want to, be somewhat undercover. So I'm just going to do this off screen really quick. And I'll show you how to get your own private key in just a moment. So let me go ahead and copy that into my thing here. And then I'm going to show you all how to do it. Actually, I'm kind of an idiot. I just showed you on screen. It doesn't matter because it's a test wallet. So anyways, have fun with that. That's so funny. Don't worry. I just, it's all a test wallet. So have fun with it. Even you can use mine if you want. Who cares? That's so funny. So anyways, it goes without saying, like, if you are using a real wallet, don't, obviously, like, if you're not familiar with Web3 concepts, if you're using a real wallet, don't show that to other people because obviously that's really bad. A private key basically gives you the ability to, go ahead and show that to, it basically gives other people the ability to, go into your wallet and transfer funds, all that kind of stuff. Again, for this tutorial, because it's a test wallet, it doesn't really matter. I mean, you guys could even use mine if you want to, just so that, you don't have to get test IP and all that. But I would recommend, sort of setting up your own wallet and that kind of thing. So, yeah. Okay, cool. So go ahead and set up your own private key, the JSON Web Token, and now you know how to do that. So just basically go to your MetaMask, click on here, click on account details, and then click on show private key, and then you will have it from there. So cool. So once you've done that, we actually should be able to run this test script just for fun. So let's go ahead into our terminal and run npm run register. And that's actually all the setup we should need. So let's go ahead and run that. And hopefully let's pray that the demo gods are with us today. And you can see it actually works, right? And we'll explain all of this, but let's go ahead to the Explorer, and we'll see that we actually have a test IP asset registered. Super cool, right? There it is. So we didn't, all we did was put in our, wallet private key, our JSON Web Token, and we ran the register script and it worked. And now I'm going to walk through actually how this works and what IP is and what all these fun things are. But just so that you could at least see that this is working and, sort of like what the end result is going to be. And yes, Ryan, don't worry. This is all going to be recorded. I'm happy to go slower also if people want me to. Would that be helpful for everyone if I went a little bit slower?
Jacob as well. I'm hoping you can hear me. I've had some difficulty joining the stage. I'm currently streaming on Google Meet to those who aren't able to get in. Could you make your screen a bit bigger just so that we can see the code a bit?
Totally. Yes. Is this a bit better?
Looking good. Cool.
Okay.
It looks good on my stream. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So I'll go a little bit slower, just so that people can follow along. So I see a couple people said, okay, so there's not enough gas in your wallet. So remember that when you create a wallet, right, you have to fill it with IP token. So you'll have to go to the faucet here, right? Yep, you'll have to go to the faucet here. And so you'll do that by going to our docs, going to innate testnet, scrolling down and clicking Google Cloud Faucet. And when you get to this faucet, you'll have to input your wallet address here, right, into this field here, and click receive 10 innate testnet IP. All right. And once you do that, it'll transfer 10 test token to your wallet. And that way you can actually run these functions. Because as I'll talk about in a second, this function right here requires that you have some test IP. Oh, you're right. You know what? Let's go ahead and hide that. Nice. Good suggestion. Okay. So let's actually walk through what the script is even doing. So the reason I wanted to show this script to you guys is because registering IP is sort of like the fundamental of Story, right? That's sort of like the oh, you mean this taskbar. Oh, yeah, I'm going to keep that up just because it's helpful for me to go back and forth. But thank you anyways. Yeah, so registering IP on Story is sort of like the fundamental, right? That's what Story is all about, right? Story helps you register, monetize, and protect your IP. So, oh, the AI tool, this is Warp, actually. So Warp is really cool, and Cursor is like the really cool like AI coder. So it's actually called Warp. You should check it out. So this IP here is a song. Now let's actually play it. Right, little dance. Okay, so this song is something I created on Suno. If you don't know, Suno is an amazing AI song generator. It's actually unbelievable. If you go here, you can click on create, and you can literally just put in like, I want to make a fun EDM song. And if you run that, actually, I don't. Oh, yeah. If you click create here, it'll literally go ahead and create an entire AI song for you. It's insane. It's so cool. And so once you do that, actually, let's just for fun, let's listen to what it creates here. And then we're going to register one of these as IP. So look at that. Insane, right? It completely creates it for you. It's so cool. But so once you do that, I believe we actually click on it. And I think what I was doing to get the URL from it is I like went to I actually can't remember how I got that, but anyways, we'll go over that in a second. But basically, we registered that as IP here, and then we attached a license to it. Now, what's so cool about Story is that it has, again, if you went to the workshop yesterday, we have programmable IP license terms in our protocol. So in our docs here, you actually see the full terms. If you scroll down and click on pill terms here, you can see all of the terms from the legal template, okay? Now, the legal template actually exists in the real legal world. You can see the document here. I'll actually paste this in the chat just for those of you that want to take a look for fun. This is a real legal template that it could be used in court to say whether or not your work was used correctly, whether or not other people like are infringing upon it, whether or not they're paying you proper rev share. You could use this in court. And so all of these terms, you'll see like expiration here, attribution, derivatives. Let's keep going. Content standards. All of these terms are actually embedded into code here. So you'll see transferability, you'll see the expiration here, commercial use, you'll see derivatives here. And then we also have more terms that are stored off-chain, like, for example, can AI train on it, attribution, channels of distribution. So we've put them in code, right? And so you can see on our Explorer, if we go into the license term that's attached to this asset, you'll see that here we are. There's a minting fee. There's it never expires. Commercial use is true, so people can commercialize it. There's a rev share here. Now, I believe this actually represents like 5%. We can create remixes of it, right? That's true. And so you're sort of getting an idea for how, like, we can attach a license to our IP here. And it even gives us some creator info, like this is my name. Here's the IP title, some description. Cool stuff, right? And we can access some NFT details as well. But anyways, this is sort of the final registered IP. And all of this happened with this script. So let's walk through this script step by step so you can see exactly how to register IP on Story using the TypeScript SDK. So right here, we've declared a IP metadata, okay? And we're using the generate IP metadata function from the Story SDK. And you'll see we have a client here. So we're actually gonna have to learn how to set this up first. So in our utils, we can go to, I believe it's utils.ts here. Oh no, it could be, I think it's config, honestly. Let's go down here. Yeah, so this is the client that we're using. It's we're just setting this up with Story client, a new client, and then we're passing in a config here. The config is very simple. It's just the account, a transport URL, and chain ID. If you want to, you can go ahead and look into how I'm setting this up. It's very simple. It should take you like no more than a minute. And again, it's already working here in this code example, so I'm not going to dive too much into that. But really, you're just setting it up with an RPC URL, which just is how you communicate with the Story network, your account, which is really just your wallet, and then the chain. And in this case, the chain is a nade because that's our testnet, and mainnet would be the real network. So don't use that until you're actually ready to go. Okay. But here, so we're using that client. We're generating IP metadata. We're putting in the title here. On Suno, the song that I made was called Midnight Mirage. And the description, I just put, this is a house style song that I made on Suno. I put a random Unix timestamp for created at, and then I put in some creator info. So my name is Jacob Tucker. Here's my wallet address. And I contributed 100% to this song. And then here, the image, this is just a link to that, to the image here. So if I copy this and I go back to here, you'll see it actually returns the image of the song. And I believe I got that actually. If you go to Suno and you click inspect element, you can actually hover over the image here, and it'll actually show you the image. So you can actually take this URL right here, kind of like a fun hack, and there it is, right? So yeah, that's just how I kind of took the image from Suno, and that's sort of my song. Okay. Then the image hash is simply just a hash of the content. You actually don't have to put this. If we remove both the hash fields, just for simplicity, you don't really have to do that. The reason we ask people to provide it is just so that if for some reason the metadata changes, you can go back and compare hashes so that, let's say I license an IP, right? And someone changes the underlying metadata, I can verify that with the hash that's provided here. But again, you don't really have to provide this, so don't worry too much about this just for the sake of this upcoming demo. Which node provider could we use to connect to Story protocol? So it's not really in the utils, or sorry, in the config here, it's not really a matter of node. It's just that you have to specify a certain RPC URL. So the RPC URL is right here. It's a nade.storyrpc.io, right? That's what you're using. All right. And then the only other thing you need is the account, which again, if you go to, like, you see the account here, the account set up right here. It's just using the wallet private key that you put in the .env file. Yes, so links can also be that. I think for just to make sure it works, you could put like a full URL in front of it. Like you could do this. You could say like https ipfs.io/ and then ipfs/cid here. You could do that too, but I believe that will work as well. Yes. So if it's not on the web, so I will show you. Okay, so if it's not on the web, you actually can use some fun tools. You can use things like Imgur. So if you go to imgur.com/upload, you can drop any image in here. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's actually I'll put an image in here. So let's put a fun image of a boat that I took, right? So we'll input that here. And then if you go ahead and right click it and click on copy image address, you now have a link to that image. So you can use that as well. And if it's a local file, you can use IPFS, and I'll actually show you how to do that in a moment. Cool. Okay, so now that we've configured some, and also I forgot, so the media URL, let's go ahead and copy that. We can paste that in, and that's just a link to the media. So this is the actual IP that we are registering today. Cool, right? And that I just got that from Suno. All right, this was a different song that I made, but you could use, whatever song. You could use that one too if you want. All right. Cool. And the media type is just audio, MP, MPEG. All right. So now NFT metadata, this is a little bit confusing. Honestly, for this metadata, if you wanted to, you could leave it totally blank. You don't even really need it. The reason that we ask to provide NFT metadata is because the way that IP works on Story is first, you mint an NFT, right? And then you register that NFT as intellectual property. And that NFT represents ownership of your IP. So in this case, right, if we look at this sort of Explorer link here, this is a piece of IP and it's owned by an NFT. So if I were to transfer that NFT to, let's say, someone in the chat here, now they would own the IP. Okay. So again, the NFT is the ownership of the IP, and whoever owns that NFT has full rights over that IP. So this is kind of cool if you think about it, because it unlocks things like selling, IPs on a secondary marketplace to, speculate or just buy and sell the underlying IP. So this NFT metadata here, if you have worked with OpenSea metadata before, or really if you've done NFTs previously, you'll know what that is. It's just a name, description, image, animation URL, and some attributes. If you're not familiar, again, you can leave this blank. Doesn't really matter. Just that the name is Midnight Mirage. We could even say like ownership NFT. And then for the description, we could say like, this owns the Midnight Mirage IP, right? Very simple. And then put in the image and media that we did above. And that's it for NFT metadata. Okay. Now, in order for this metadata to actually be embedded inside the IP, we have to upload it somewhere. It has to live somewhere. And we can see that if we go back to here, all this metadata that's being populated here, the title, the description, the image, the song here, it's being stored on IPFS. And we can see that if we click on view metadata, you'll see that it's being stored right here, right? You can see that the same exact metadata that's right here is also right here, okay? And it's because we're uploading it to IPFS, and this is the final link of where that is living. It's at ipfs.io/IPFS, and then the the content identifier right here, okay? And the way that we're achieving that is by using this upload JSON to IPFS function, and we can view that if we go ahead over here, right? Let's actually open this up in another tab here, okay? So we're using this function. All it's doing is using our Pinata JSON web token that's in our env that we set earlier. And it's saying pinata.upload, and it's uploading that JSON. It's uploading that metadata, okay? And then it's returning the hash for us. And that hash is stored in IPFS hash right here, okay? Then we're simply just getting the hash of the actual content. Again, this isn't crucially important, but it's helpful to, I guess, to know. And it's very simple. We're just using the create hash function that we just installed as part of our dependencies. And it's just hashing this JSON content right here. Okay, cool. Then the last step is the actual registration of the IP, right? So we have set up the metadata, and now we're going to actually register it as IP. And to do that, we're using the mint and register IP asset with pill terms function. And this is sort of like, the meat and potatoes of the IP asset registration. So there's a few things involved here. And I will point out, by the way, that if for some reason you want to have your own NFT contract, your own custom NFT contract, you can do that. And that's actually supported in this register custom script, where you'll see we're actually just using a register function where you pass in an existing NFT. You pass in a NFT contract and token ID, but this is a little bit more complicated, and this function is actually easier for beginners to get started because you don't need to do any of that setup. All you have to do is pass in what's called an SVG NFT contract address, and you can use a public default one. And the public default one is provided in this file. Actually, if we go to config, you can see that it's actually right here. This is the default SVG NFT contract address. And again, this is sort of like a public collection of all NFTs that people can mint, and it doesn't really matter who owns it. So you can go ahead and copy this, or again, for the purposes of this demo, I've already set it up for you. So you have this address here. And the reason that we have to provide this is because this function is going to actually handle the minting of the NFT for you. So you don't have to mint ahead of time and then register it. It's going to mint and register it totally for you, okay? And then this is super cool because this is the license terms data. So this is the actual license that we're going to attach to our IP asset so that other people know how they can and cannot use it, right? And this is like the crux of Story is attaching licenses to your IP. So in this license terms data, we're providing license terms, right? And you can see that if you click on this function here, this is actually the license terms that we're attaching to our asset. So we're saying people can transfer it. And by the way, the final return value here is of type license terms, right? So we're returning a license terms as determined by Story, right? So transferable is true. The default minting fee, you can pass in as a parameter here. It does not expire. You can use it commercially. Derivatives are allowed, right? So here are all the terms. And then if we go back here, we'll see that we're passing in a minting fee of 1 IP. So it costs 1 IP to mint. And the rev share is 5, which is 5%. So if anyone earns revenue, right? So let's say someone comes in, they want to use this for a commercial, right? They play this in their commercial and they earn, let's say, $100 from that commercial, right? Or whatever it is. Let's say they want to remix this and put it on Spotify, right? And they earn $100. They have to pay me $5. That's 5%, right? And that's as specified by this rev share. So we're attaching that. Then the IP metadata is, we've already done all the heavy work here. So we've gotten the IP, we've uploaded all this metadata to IPFS, and we're simply just setting it right here. All right. And then we ran that, and this was the output, right? It said this was the transaction hash, and this was the resulting IPA ID, right? This is the identifier for this IP asset. And this is the license terms that were attached to our asset. So it has number 1605, right? And that is what was attached to our asset. And then I simply went to this URL and boom, this is the registered asset. So does that make sense for everybody so far? Does anyone have any questions about that whole process? So this number 1605, that's the identifier for the license terms. So as you'll see here, right, this is this is like a combination of license terms, right? We have this minting fee, this expiration, this commercial use, derivatives are allowed. And so that specific combination of terms maps to this identifier. And actually, sorry, Rebecca, I will increase the font here as well so people on the Google Meet can see it too. Right? So, yeah, right. So, and you can see here, it's actually listing 1605 already for us as well. So you know that this is like that combination, okay? Okay. So how was it attached? So it was attached by this function. So this function is called mint and register IP asset with kill terms. So this function is minting an NFT, registering that NFT as IP, and then attaching these license terms to that IP asset. All right. And all we're doing is passing in a license terms type to this terms right here. Right. And so we can actually go ahead and see again, this is the license terms that we're passing in. Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to share that. Yeah. So here is the link to the Explorer. All right. And you can again, if you go to our docs here, you can see that these are the terms that are supported, right? Transferability, minting fee, expiration, blah blah blah. And all I did was put that into code here, right? And then that's how we sort of set it. And one extra. So is 1605 a type of asset contract? No. So the way you can think about it is like this is a struct, right? This is like the set of terms. And when we actually registered it, right, we set the value for these, right? Like expiration is never, commercial derivatives allowed is true, right? And that's just an object that lives on inside of our contract, and it's just a mapping. So it's like 1605 maps to this set of terms. 1604 maps to this set of terms, right? And that's protocol wide. So that's for everybody. So like, you know, if these terms had already existed, it would not have created another one. It would just use 1605 again. Yep, exactly. So it's for the whole protocol. Yep. Exactly. And you know what? Just for fun, just so I can prove that to you, let's actually go to our API. And if I actually don't know where this would be, but I think it should be under get a license term. Yeah. So if you go to get a license term here and click on try it, let's put in like 1, for example, right? And if we put in 1, it'll actually show you this is the values for 1. So the minting fee is 0, expiration is never, you know, commercial attribution is false. But let's put in 1605. This was our terms, right? And you'll see these are our exact, it's going to load for a second, but these are our exact terms here. So expiration's never, commercial use true, right? Yep. What currencies are supported now? What is the minting fee? So the only currency that's currently supported is wrapped IP token, which is really just IP token, but because IP is the native gas token, it can't be used as an ERC20. So we use wrapped IP. The good news is that this function, any functions that require you to pay in wrapped IP will auto convert IP token for you. So you don't have to worry about converting between IP and wrapped IP and blah, blah, blah. It'll do that conversion for you. And we'll see that in just a moment when we go ahead and mint a license. So, right. So currently Story only supports a wrapped IP token as a payment currency. But I should note that that doesn't mean that, you know, you can't pay in like US dollars, for example, or any other token you want. It's just that if you use Story's like royalty solution, you have to use wrapped IP token for it to handle that for you. But again, like, you know, license terms are like they are enforceable no matter what. So like, let's say if I say, hey, you know, there's a commercial rev share of 5% and you go and earn, you know, $100 off chain, or you earn 100 Bitcoin, right? You still have to make that payment, right? And if they don't, you could bring that person to court and blah, blah. Oh, I have an AVAX NFT and want to wrap it in Story for the IP. Right. So yeah, so Story, in order to register something as IP, it has to be a Story native. The NFT has to be Story native, and cross-chain like wrapping or cross-chain registration of NFTs is not yet supported. But maybe you could find a interesting solution. What happens if someone clones your IP NFT and registers it on the Story marketplace, or if someone reused parts of it, either the image or sound on OpenSea? Right. So we will get into that in just a moment, but the answer to that is dispute. So you can actually go ahead and dispute IP by calling raise dispute on it. And this will raise a dispute on that IP. And then arbitration providers will go in, look at the evidence, and decide whether or not that IP is infringing. And if it's marked as infringing, it'll permanently stop all royalty flow, any derivatives, anything like that. So the IP is now invalid. All right. So that was registering an IP asset and adding terms to it. Okay. So next, we're going to go over minting a license. Okay. And this is actually very, very straightforward. It's just using the mint license tokens function. So let's go ahead and take that IP ID that we created. I'm going to paste that into here. And then our license terms was 1605. All right. And I'm going to call this function. And what this does is this is me saying, hey, like let's say for example, I'm a DJ, right? And I have a concert in New York City, and I want to use this as part of my set, right? I want to go in there and I want to play this song. In order to use it, I have to mint a license to it, right? I have to abide by the terms. And so the terms say that it costs 1, right? Because we set that up over here. It costs 1 IP to mint this song, okay? So we're going to do that. So we're going to go in, we're going to say, I want to mint this song. And again, it's actually going to make the payment in wrapped IP token, but because we have IP, it's going to handle that conversion for us. So we can go in and say npm run mint license. And it's going to run this function. And let's see what happens. There we go. So this was the transaction hash. This is the license token ID. So this is the ID of my license. So I now have proof that I have minted a license. And behind the scenes, I don't know if it'll actually show that, but I mean, let's see. Okay, yeah, it's hard to show it, but you know what? Let's actually go ahead and look at this transaction hash just for fun. I'm going to go to the story explorer here and put in this transaction hash. And we should see in the logs that here we go. So wrapped IP, and we transferred from my address, we transferred one IP token, right? So we actually paid one IP to mint this license. And now I have a license to use this song. So now I could go in to my concert, I could play this song, right? But if I earned a ton of money, right, I would have to pay 5% of that back to the original creator because of the revenue share that was set. All right, so that's the mint license step. Any questions on that? Yep, license. The license is a ERC 721 NFT. So you can actually, what's cool about that is you can go ahead and transfer that to people as well, or you can buy and sell it, right? So there's actually a marketplace on Story called colornp.com. And on ColorNP, you can actually view licenses, and you look, there's actually like a floor price for it being licenses, which is kind of cool, right? Like there's literally a whole like marketplace for buying and selling the licenses. Who should mint the license? The provider. So minting a license is permissionless, which means that anyone can mint it. So like, for example, if because this is my song, you could actually call this function. So you would call the function to mint this. However, I can also call this for you. So let's say I just want to give it to you. I could specify a receiver here, and the receiver would be your address. So I can mint it to you if I wanted to as well. So great question. So how does the royalty get paid back to the IP holder? So let's go ahead and look at that now. So let's go to royalty and go to claim revenue. So now we're going to view how that royalty gets claimed back to the original song holder. That's exactly correct. If transferable is set to false, then the license NFT cannot be sold or transferred or anything like that. Yep, correct. Okay, so now let's see how royalty gets claimed. So let's go back and let's go ahead and copy our IP ID from the song, and let's run this function. So we run npm run claim revenue, right? And if we run that, let's see what happens. Let's see if this works. I'm praying. Let's see. Oh, it worked. Yes. All right. So we see here that this is the claimer. This is the token. This is actually the address of wrapped IP token. And then the amount. So it looks like I claimed, what is this, 10 trillion or something? This actually is one wrapped IP. It's just in what's that called? WA. It's in WA format. So this is one IP. So you can see that one wrapped IP was claimed by the original IP owner. Super cool, right? There we go. No. This is not an American metric system. This is a weird blockchain metric system called WAY. Is it possible to check revenues amount prior to? Yes, actually. So let me show you how to do that. If you do, actually, you know what? I'll just show you the docs for it. If you go to the documentation, oops, sorry. I don't mean to give all of you a seizure by clicking back and forth, but if you go to the SDK reference, you can go to license, and if you go, where is it? Royalty, and go to claimable revenue. So this function right here. So if you run claimable revenue, all you have to do is put in a royalty vault. This is just the IP ID, and then the claimer and the token. It'll show you how much is actually available. There you go. All right. Does that make sense, everybody? I'm going to wait an extra like 30 seconds just to make sure that everyone is doing okay so far. What is IP ID? So IP ID is the IPA ID we've been using right here. That is the identifier for an IP asset, right? So when we initially minted the song and registered it as IP, it gave us this IP ID. And that's actually how we can go and view it. Like, for example, on our Explorer here, this thing in the URL here, this is the IP ID. So it's like the identifier for that piece of intellectual property. Is there a partner affiliate program? No, there's no affiliate program like that. No, but it'd be cool to build it. You should build that for this Buildathon. That's a good project idea. Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, it's definitely helpful to go over it afterwards by hand. Where does the royalty revenue come from? Okay, so let's actually go through that together because that's a good question. So, if any of you are curious also, I definitely recommend checking out the royalty module docs. This is very helpful. At least I hope, because I'm the one that made it. So if it's not helpful, then you can scream at me in Discord. But this is all the docs for the royalty module. So let's actually, you can see that in this diagram, right? This is actually a more complicated example where not only are we paying an asset, but we're paying a whole derivative chain. So in this example, there's like, a root asset, someone made a remix of it, then a remix of that, and this pays up the whole chain. And this shows you how all the payments are tracked via our protocol. And so in this case, right, I actually made this diagram for today and I forgot to talk about it. In this case, this is our IP asset. So this is our song, right? This is our song that we registered. And when we registered our song, we then went and minted a license to it, right? And this is what that looked like in our protocol. So this is our song asset. We then called this function called pay royalty on behalf, or really, you could just imagine this is like mint license, right? Like that's what this is called. And then we paid the one wrapped IP. And let me just change all these numbers so that it makes sense for this example. We paid one IP. It went to the royalty module contract. It then deposited that into the IP royalty vault that's associated with this asset. And then when we claimed it, right, that last step where we actually claimed it, that is this step right here, where it went from the royalty vault to the asset and got claimed. And the purpose of this royalty vault is to store all of the revenue that this asset generates. So anytime this asset earns revenue, it gets stored here. And then when it gets claimed, it's transferred to this asset right here. And you may be wondering, why do we have to claim, right? Like, why can't it just automatically deposit to the asset? The reason is because of these royalty tokens right here. And it's actually a really cool concept where every time an asset is generated, there are all the royalty tokens get transferred to the asset. And royalty tokens basically are like royalty tokens give you permission to claim revenue. So, if we wanted to, for example, we could say let's say 90% of the royalty tokens get transferred here. And then let's just for fun, let's say 10% of the royalty tokens get transferred to a person, right? We'll just put a little smiley face here, right? There's a person. When this asset earns revenue, right, what will happen is 90% of the earnings will go to the asset, and then 10% will go to this person. So you can also buy and sell royalty tokens that are associated with an IP asset. And that unlocks whole new DeFi opportunities, right? So it's also cool to think about. And if you want to, you can actually go to this transfer royalty token script right here. And this will show you setting up a dummy IP asset, minting a license to it, and then transferring some of the royalty tokens. So you can simulate this sort of like royalty sharing. How do you know that the user has earned something by using your IP since he is paid off chain? What if he, so that's a great question. So the question is, what happens if someone earns revenue off chain, right? They could just not make the payment. The answer to that is Story is not and cannot be a royalty enforcer, right? It's impossible, right? Because I could set license terms and then you could go in revenue and I would have no idea. But if you don't make that payment, right? Like if I find out that you don't make that payment, then I could raise that dispute and take you to court over that, or resolve that dispute on chain if I want as well. But Story cannot be an enforcer like that. We can add certain features to make that easier, make that discoverability easier. And if you want to learn more about that, you should go to the Story attestation service, which is basically a bunch of projects or a bunch of providers, each flagging IP. Every single time an IP is registered, they go in and basically add verification badges to IP to make sure that it's valid or that payments being made, whatever. So on-chain enforcement, that is via the dispute module. So if you want to go ahead and view dispute module docs, you can see that as well. And the way the dispute module works is, let's say I find out that someone in the chat here went and used my song in their DJ set and they didn't, pay me anything. I could raise a dispute by calling this function, raise dispute, provide evidence that that person misused my work or didn't pay me, and it would start on-chain dispute process. And so what's actually pretty cool is, I'm sure some of you have heard of Polymarket. Polymarket is a prediction market. It basically allows you to go in, let's see here, like who will be the NBA champion, right? Who's going to win basketball? The Oklahoma City Thunder. And like you bet on who will win or not. The person or the company that's actually enforcing that this is paid out correctly is someone called UMA. And UMA is like a on-chain truth machine, as you see here. And they're making sure that things are correctly done on-chain. And we actually use UMA as well for Story. So when you raise a dispute, UMA will go in, look at that dispute, arbitrate on it, and then return a result. And if they're found that it's infringing, the person will have to make a payment, or else their IP is now invalid. In the worst case scenario, you would have to then take them to court. But again, that's in like the worst case. So we do provide like an on-chain dispute mechanism as well, which you're seeing right here. How a marketplace service can get service fees, for example, 5% of all payments to authors published on it. How a marketplace service can get service fees. I don't fully understand the question. You're saying like for example, like in Color Marketplace, right? Like you're saying if someone, for example, buys and sells a Globkins IP, the marketplace should take 5% of that. Okay, so that's actually, yeah. So you can definitely do that. I actually think I might have a diagram for that here. Hold on, let me go back. Oh yeah, so I actually do. It's kind of funny. So this is actually a diagram I made for Color. So this kind of answers your question. But basically, what would happen? Oh wait, is this? Wait, sorry, it might not be. I actually don't know. But basically, I'll show you this anyway. What you can do is when this payment is made, like let's say someone buys that Globkins IP, the marketplace would take out 5% right away, right? So let's say they made a payment for 100 wrapped IP, the marketplace would just take 5. and then simulate the rest of the payment with the remaining 95. Does that make sense? So it's you would simply just take out the service fee up front. So, by the way, I just noticed that we are at time. I mean, I could talk about this literally all day. So if I'm happy to continue, if anyone has any questions, yeah, or even if people want me to talk more about using the SDK, I'll totally keep going. What can be done with a purchase license? So you can either use the IP, right, which is the whole point of the license, is to actually use the IP, or you can buy and sell it, right? Which is again is shown on color, where they allow you to go in and buy and sell licenses. So like these are all licenses that are up for sale to use the IP. But the main point of the license is to use the underlying IP here. Like for again, if I was a artist, or if I was a DJ, I want to use this song in my next concert. Yeah. So again, because we're at time, I don't want to bore all of you. And again, I'm very happy to keep doing more of these workshops, and I will be throughout probably next week. And we will have office hours in the Story Discord. But you can walk through all these examples to keep learning. I would say that the main important thing we didn't get to cover is derivatives. So creating a derivative work of IP. Would it be helpful to you guys if I walk through making a derivative? Yes. Okay. Okay. Great. Okay. Okay. Wow. Okay. So yeah, a lot of people want that. Okay. So let's go ahead and do that. So let me explain a little bit how derivatives work. So derivatives are basically like what happens if I want to. Actually, you know what? Let me start with something a little bit more fun, maybe. Sabrina Carpenter espresso sped up, right? So here we go. Here's a prime example, right? So Sabrina Carpenter has a song called Espresso, was everywhere on the radio, super popular. But then people release remix versions of it, right? Like let's listen to this. Right, sped up, and it has 7 million views. And the thing behind this is that the original creator is not really getting anything from it, right? So much so to the point where some artists, let's actually see if she's even doing this. Let's go to Sabrina Carpenter. Let's go to her channel. I actually don't know. Let's see. Oh my God, yeah. So this is so funny, right? So exactly what I was just talking about, where Sabrina Carpenter releases Espresso, right? But she also, on her own channel, also releases different versions of that song, right? On Vacation version, Double Shot version, Espresso version, right? And so the reason she's doing this is because she wants to capture all of the revenue from these remix versions without other artists making that money. And so that's the purpose of creating derivatives is, if I wanted to make this song but speed it up, I need to make a official remix version of that song so that people can then license that song, and Story can automate the revenue share between those two assets because it's officially registered as a derivative tree on Story. And we saw that in the royalty module docs where, let's say you have the Espresso version, then a sped up version, and then a sped up plus reverbed version, right? And so that way, when you pay IP asset 3, or when you pay to mint a license from 3, right, it'll flow up the chain and pay everybody. Okay, so that's sort of the context behind what we're doing today. So with that being said, let's go into the register derivative commercial function. And what we're going to be registering a derivative of is IPI. So if we take this, let's just copy and paste this IP ID and go to the Explorer. And let me just make a new link. Sorry. .explorer, and I'm going to paste the ID up here. And this is Ippy. So this is our mascot. This is Story's mascot, and it's registered on our testnet. And you can see a whole lineage. There's all these assets that are registered underneath it. But we're going to make a derivative of this asset. So in here, we pasted a link, or we pasted the IP ID to Ippy. And the license terms we're going to use are, if we go ahead, let's go to licenses. We have two licenses here. We have one and 96. One says that it costs nothing to mint it. However, we cannot use it commercially, right? Whereas 96 says it costs one wrapped IP to mint, but we can use it commercially. So if I want to use this in my commercial, right? Or let's say I want to make a T-shirt, right? And I want to, I want to add Ippy, and I want to put a hat on him, which is why I'm registering this as a remix, right? We can do that. So we're going to use 96 so that we can use our remix version commercially, okay? So let's go ahead and, you know what would be kind of funny? Let's just simulate this whole process. So if I go into Excalidraw, I'm going to paste this, and then I'm going to add a mustache. There's my mustache, okay? So let's go ahead and now screenshot this. Okay, and I'm going to upload this to Imgur. Okay, now here's our remixed asset. All right, so we're going to copy that image. I'm going to go back, and let's just say, again, because we're over time, I don't want to go through this whole thing again. I don't want to bore you guys, but you would set up the metadata the same way. So just like we did in registration, you would do all this, right? You would set up the name, you would paste in the image here that we just uploaded, whatever. And then for this example, we're just using test metadata. So it's just saying test. So it's not real, obviously. But you would put in your real metadata, right? You would put in that mustache. So then we already filled in the, this is just an example SVG contract we can use by default. You don't have to worry about this. Derivative data is just, the parent IP is just the ID of Ippy. And the license terms is just 96, right? That's what we're registering our asset under. And then that's it, right? And so let's not even worry about revenue here. Let's just register an asset. So let's just say npm run. Actually, I forget what it's called. I think it's derivative commercial. Yeah, derivative commercial. Okay, and we're going to run this script. And in the background, what it's doing is it's paying Ippy one IP to register as a derivative, right? Remember, because it costs one IP to mint. So it's doing that in the background as well. So here's our new IP ID. And if we go to our Explorer, we can paste that in. And you'll see it's a dummy image because we didn't put any metadata. But you can see that the parent is Ippy, right? So if we click on this, it takes us back to Ippy, who is now the parent. So just imagine that this image is the remixed Ippy, right? And now we can use that remixed image on a T-shirt and sell it, right? And make money. And then when we pay this asset, if we want to pay it money, it will pay the mustache Ippy. And then when that happens, Ippy, the real version, can also claim its due share because of the revenue share, okay? And if you want to see examples of that, just go to royalty and you can see license revenue, pay revenue, all this fun stuff. So license revenue actually shows an example of what we just did while also, claiming revenue for it. And pay revenue shows an example of paying the mustache Ippy, and then both the parent and the child claiming revenue. So if 10 T-shirts are made, yeah, exactly. So let's say, for example, someone goes and makes a store on Shopify and they sell the mustache Ippy on the T-shirt, right? Then let's say a bunch of revenue is made, or maybe even someone makes a website where, it automatically handles this under the hood. it would pay that revenue to the story royalty module. And then it would simulate the payment like this so that it's transferred up the chain every time. How do you register a derivative of your own IP? So the same exact way that we just did it under IPI. So all you would do here is just you would put your own IP ID here and your own license terms here. So this script is sort of like a general script for registering derivatives, and you would just put it, your own sort of ID here and your own terms here. So for example, I registered the song earlier. So I would put my, this is the ID. We can copy it right here. I would put my ID, and then I want to register it under this license 1605, and I would put 1605, and then we would register a derivative under that. Does that make sense? Awesome. Pretty cool. And then this is the last thing I'll show you, just because I think this is really helpful as well. When a license is used and revenue generated off chain, how do I initiate the royalty payment on chain? Do I pay up buying? Okay, so actually I'll show you that right here. Can a derivative have multiple parent? How will revenue sharing happen? Yeah. So when you register a derivative, it can have multiple parents. So for example, you can have like this happen where this is the derivative chain, where an asset is a derivative of two IPs like that. And what will happen is, let's say, for example, that this asset says, you owe me 10%. This asset's license terms say any derivatives have to pay me 10%. And this one says, and you have to pay 15%. Then when this asset earns revenue, it'll flow back up the chain depending on how they've negotiated the terms. Right? So like, for example, if this one earns $100, this one would get 10 and this one would get 5. And this one would be left with 85, right? So Ridwan, to answer your question, so let's actually simulate that right here, right? So in this script called pay revenue, what happens, and this is kind of a complicated script, but just bear with me for a second. We have an original asset, okay? So in this case, we have IPI. So we can take this ID and go and view it, right? And we can see that it's IPI, right? Boom, okay? And so what we want to do, actually, So what we want to do is register a derivative under it, right? So, or imagine, just to answer your question, imagine a derivative is not even, you don't even have to make a derivative. Let's say you want to pay the original work, whatever. In this case, we register a derivative. Now, here is what you're talking about, which is a function called pay royalty on behalf. So if you earn revenue off chain, right? And I mean, you could handle that payment off chain, right? If the license says you owe me 5%, you could just give that person a $5 bill and then it's done, right? You don't have to make that payment on chain. But if there is a really complicated situation where, let's say you have a whole derivative graph and you don't want to individually calculate how much money you owe, because imagine there's like 1,000 ancestors, right? Or you just want to do this in code, you would use this pay royalty on behalf function. And what this does is this just pays revenue on chain, right? So in this case, we're paying money to a child IP asset, right? So actually, let's see if I made a diagram for that. I'm like a wizard with diagrams everywhere. Okay, so here we go. This is actually this exact same scenario where we have IPI and then we have a derivative here. And so in this case, I'm using pay royalty on behalf to pay money to this second asset, but because of story, it's automating that payment back to the original asset too, right? So we can actually see that here. And then like this, right? So this is what it would look like. Okay, so we're paying money to the child IP, right? As we see right here, this is the child IP, okay? And then when we do that, the child can claim its revenue, right? So this is what this would look like, the child. And what that would do is this would simulate this sort of thing, where the child claims its revenue. And then in the next step, the parent claims its revenue. And that would just look like this. Okay. And so while this does use derivatives, the same sort of idea can happen here, where, just to answer your question, you're saying if payment is made off chain, how can I put that on chain? You would just call this pay royalty on behalf function with IP asset 1, and it would handle the whole payment. Does that help? Can the payment happen in stablecoins? So no, however, that's something that we want to add. We definitely want to add because of, obviously if someone sets a license, they want to have stability in their pricing. So that's something we're adding, but for the purposes of this buildathon, it's just in wrapped IP. Yes. So you have to get IP token to make the payment. Yep, that's correct. And again, that's if you're handling the payment on chain. If you want to handle it off chain, again, in the legal world, that's totally valid. Do you have bridges? Yes, we actually have quite a few. So if you go to, I'll actually send that to you. How do I bridge? So there's Stargate, dBridge, and Orbiter. These are the main ones that we use. I'll send you Stargate just to show you. Actually, you probably already know that. Okay. Someone can build this payment graph on EVM supported blockchain. So you could do that, but part of the reason we made Story in the first place is because that wasn't possible. When we actually initially launched Story, we launched it on Sepolia on ETH. And when we got to like 5 ancestors, the gas price was through the roof because handling payment to each IP, splitting it, it just wasn't possible. So that's actually why we initially launched Story in the first place. Cool. Text IP, I don't know what that is. The innate faucet is right here. So if you want to scroll down to here, you can use, I would recommend using the Google Cloud faucet. But if you need more IP, you can always use the R faucet, but that requires you to have like some mainnet IP as well, just to prevent bots. So, okay, so I'm going to officially wrap things up here, I think, because I don't want to go too far over time. And I want to make sure that we have some content for next week as well. So if anyone has any questions, please go to, or I guess story-specific questions, go to our Discord. I'm going to put that in the chat here, and ask any questions you have there. Again, if you have a really complex question, you want me to hop on a call, I'm always happy to do that. So, we can keep talking through this, and we're going to have more workshops next week. So stay tuned. I hope this was helpful for everybody, and the recording should be available. Oh my God. And I also totally forgot. Sorry. I know I'm like rambling.
Yes, the recording should be available.
Oh yeah. No, you go, Rebecca. You go.
Oh, sorry. No, so, okay, I'm going to keep talking, but that's because I'm streaming on this other thing. My voice is like, there's a 5-second delay. So hopefully I'm not interrupting you right now. No, you go on, Jacob. I'm going to. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much, Rebecca, for handling all this. The last thing I was going to say was if you want to use the smart contracts directly, then I would recommend checking out this completed code example. So the same way that we went over TypeScript today, if you want to use Solidity instead, I have a whole repo where you can view all of these actions in Solidity instead. So check that out as well. But anyways, I'm officially done. Rebecca, you take it from here.
Oh, your camera. No worries. No worries. That's totally fine. All right, I'll be Rebecca for this last part. Thank you all so much for coming to the workshop. Encode is amazing. I love Encode, and the workshop will be available soon. If you want to check out more stuff, please go to our Discord. Anyways, I don't even know what I'm saying at this point. I'm like so brain fried from the workshop. But basically, we have another workshop tomorrow. Our CEO is giving a workshop tomorrow, so please go to that tomorrow. Definitely, because that's going to be non-technical, but it's our CEO, so definitely go to that one. Yes, that's it. It's going to be super lit. All right, everybody. Bye now.